Guys, I need to show you one of the potentially scariest charts I've ever seen for Bitcoin, because we could be looking at a $37,000 drop down to $9,000. I can't even believe I'm saying this. Look, I realistically don't even think that this is going to happen, but what I think and what might actually happen are two different things, because we are in a very tense situation at the moment where Bitcoin has repeatedly been forming a series of extremely bearish patterns, which I was actually warning you about on this channel, and the biggest one that we're in right now looks disastrous for Bitcoin, potentially sending us down to 20k easily, or even significantly lower. So I want to break this down for you, tell you absolutely everything about it, and reinforce why I think it might happen, why I don't think it will happen, and of course let you make your own informed decisions, because this is not a YouTube channel where I feed you bullshit and just try and scare you and try and excite you or anything like that. I'm giving you valid technical theories and letting you make your own conclusions on them. And guys, if you appreciate that, do me a favor as you're coming into this video and smash up those likes, subscribe if you're new around here, but take a look at this. The key thing that I want to show you before I actually get to it is that Bitcoin has been forming a series of rising wedge patterns within its massive bull markets, where it's been rising up really nicely. This was up to the first peak at 65,000, coming off the low at about 28,000 over here, 30,000 even. It managed to rise up very quickly, and then it started rising up a lot slower, indicating that momentum was shifting in the market to the downside, and then bam, we got that torpedo falling back down to the ground right there. It literally just showing us that at first the market was moving up very aggressively, very quickly. Then we lost some of the strength, which is when we entered this rising wedge pattern, and then we fell out of it, and we actually came back up for a kiss of death before then crashing down by about 50% or even more. Let me just calculate this. Yeah, this was a 49 to 51% drop right there. Absolutely catastrophic crash in the market coming off that kind of pattern. And guys, I was warning you about Bitcoin doing exactly the same thing on this chart as well, which it did. Bitcoin formed another rising wedge pattern after a very quick aggressive run up. It started to lose a little bit of strength. It did not continue to rally up with as much strength as it had originally, and actually we can see this a little bit more clearly if I just zoom out a little bit further out. I can draw this slightly differently, and you can just see pretty much the same thing happening right here in this market, where the market just very clearly, visibly was losing strength at this point in time, and then of course we started to see the big drop down. Now this drop is in some ways worse than the drop that we had right here, because we didn't even get back up for that kiss of death, right? We didn't even get back up to test that previous area of bam, support, then as resistance. We didn't even get to do that on this chart. We didn't have a single reaction rally, and obviously that was pretty dangerous for the market. Now I just want to pause the video here and tell you guys very clearly that because we didn't have a single relief rally on this whole drop so far, I think we are overdue for one. I definitely do not think that Bitcoin is immediately going to be crashing down to these low levels. Look, it's possible. I'm not ruling it out, but even if we were going to crash down to 30k and 20k and 9k, and we were all going to have our lives ruined and our wives are going to leave us, and it's just going to be a disgusting situation where she just goes for the lawyer down the street because he's got a more stable $60,000 salary, it's still not at that point yet, in my opinion, because we need to have corrections, right? It doesn't matter if we're moving up or if we're moving down. Trends need to correct, right? The reason that we're seeing such a hideous correction now is because on the way up, we didn't have a correction. And so we're paying for that right now with this drop right now. When we do have corrections, we manage to move up in much more healthy ways, right? The fact that we got such a big drop right here after this relatively aggressive run up meant that we were then able to effectively, nearly double the price fairly quickly, just because we got a correction. So we get corrections when we trade down, we get corrections that move upwards, or when we trade up, we get corrections that move down, like this one right here. We haven't had a correction in this downtrend so far. We haven't had a relief rally at all. The strongest move up we've had was about 10%, and that's just not strong enough in my opinion. We need to have a more significant pullback. Look at this. This rally up took us up by about 85%. The drop down, minus 24%. This rally up took us up by about 64, or even potentially a little bit higher than that, up by about 70%. And only now are we triggering this drop right here, where we're down by about 30%, and we haven't formed a single meaningful rally. I still think we need to do that, but not the point of this video. The point of and by the way, what I'm about to show you still has space for that. For us to drop down to 9k, we can still rally up a little bit and then crash down, and that is potentially the scariest part of this all. But the reason I'm bringing this to your attention is that these rising wedge patterns, they're actually very dangerous for the market, and Bitcoin has very clearly been forming these in its market right now. And what's potentially very concerning about all of this is that Bitcoin is in another one of those patterns right now. Not only did it form smaller rising wedge patterns like like this, but it's in a huge one. If I draw this for you guys right now, that looks a little bit like this. Bear with me, let me just take off all of these lines because it's getting a little bit confusing. We're actually potentially in a huge one that looks a little bit like this right now. Bear with me while I draw this out for you guys correctly. Something a little bit like this, right, where Bitcoin is broadly speaking forming a very, very similar pattern again in this market right now, where we're finding support on the bottom of this wedge potentially. And we can draw this a little bit differently, right? I mean, this depends on your own biases on how exactly you want to be drawing this kind of wedge, right? So we can make this a lot steeper if we want to basically say that we're a lot closer to support at the moment. But the bottom line is that we are out of a potentially pretty quick rise up, we are starting to slow down with this trend right now. And I think that's very that's the main thing, is we managed to rise up really, really quickly, and we're slowing down a lot, showing us that compared to what we were doing over here, we've lost a lot of strength in this phase of the market right here, which is again that classic sign of the market initially moving up really, really, really quickly like over here, but then we're tapering off, we're losing a lot of that strength and potentially getting ready to reverse back down like an absolute just a rock falling down. And we can visualize this pretty clearly if we just look at moving averages in the long term. If we just focus on the 200 moving average for the 4-day chart, or we can even look at the weekly chart, it'll probably be a little bit more sensible to look at the weekly chart right here. Look, it's pretty clear that the market has really leveled off compared to the way it was moving before, right? I mean, at first, this moving average showing us some very aggressive price action to the upside, and now very much leveling off. If we zoom in a little bit more into the 4-day time frame, it's even clearer. We can see that the market was at first pushing really, really aggressively, and now not nearly as aggressively at all. We can see it with the RSI as well, really showing us, and this is the key thing to note, is that yes, it's an overbought territory. That it means overbought, but in real life, it doesn't mean anything like that at all. What it's really showing us is that a relative strength index is telling us that the market is very, very strong at this point, being overbought. And this is a really important thing, guys, and I don't know why technical analysis teachers don't tell this more often, but an overbought RSI is not a bad thing. It means that the relative strength of the market is high. And well, that just means that the market is strong. So if the market is strong, that's not a bad thing. We stayed in overbought territory all the way up to the bloody all-time high at like $60,000, $58,000. In fact, we were still overbought when the market hit 62, and we entered oversold territory when the market rose to about 12,000. So from 12,000 to about 62, the dumbass using the RSI to base their analysis would have missed out on a 5 times gain. Very, very important things to keep in mind right here, where just because an indicator looks easy to understand like the RSI doesn't mean that it's actually reliable. And a lot of people fall for that trap because they don't actually know what they're doing in technical analysis. So they learn about this indicator on the first YouTube video they search for when they look for how to do Bitcoin TA, and they massively screw themselves over. This is what I'm aiming to help you guys avoid. And of course, every single person, most people who join 4Flies VIP are going to be getting free access to the 4Flies Academy course, where I'm teaching you everything I know about analysis and trading from A to Z. So you can get a very good understanding of how to do what I do in terms of analysis and trading. So if you think that my approach is going to be good for you, then definitely check this out by following these steps on screen right here. But just moving us back to the charts at the moment, this is a very important thing to note, is that we had a very aggressive run up. We've now lost a lot of the momentum, and the thing that makes this potentially quite scary is that if we are actually going to be kind of coming back down, we are looking at a situation here where if I just move this to be a little bit closer to where it was before, this kind of rising wedge, we are looking at a situation where we could potentially be dropping down by effectively the whole size of this wedge, which does measure about a $37,000 gain right here. Yeah, about $37,000. And so we could be looking at an equal breakdown from the breakout point. Let's say we break out from, say, right around where we are at the moment. A $37,000 drop is abysmal. It puts us down to about $8,000 on this chart right here. And it's not to say that we will actually drop that much, but the point is, and the reason that I'm bringing this to your attention before I dive a little bit deeper into how I got to that $9,000 target, is that Bitcoin has already formed this pattern twice in this recent market, right? I really want to make this point clear to you. I usually would not be caring about these patterns too much, but the fact that Bitcoin has already done this twice is alarming, right? Bitcoin loves to form certain characteristics and stick to them in the market. And like I said, if we've just formed 2 of these in a row, what's to say that we're not in a bigger one right now? A lot of people don't consider these things, but if you've been around in the Bitcoin market for a while, you're going to have a very good understanding by now of how Bitcoin loves to repeat certain characteristics, and it repeats them on small time frames and massive time frames that would look a little bit more like this as well. Bitcoin just repeats the same characteristics, whether you like it or not. It's just a fact of the market, and it happens on different time frames sometimes as well. So I mean, you can draw this a little bit like this, you can draw the other line perhaps a little bit like this, just showing it. And actually I've got a chart illustrating exactly the same thing right here, and what makes this even more concerning is the time frame stuff indicating that we could actually be breaking down very, very soon, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But you can see, broadly speaking, that there's these two, there's this one small rising wedge here, the other small rising wedge here, which I already spoke about, and then we're in a bigger one altogether as well. And that, like I said, because it's a characteristic of Bitcoin that it's exhibiting right now, it's confirmed. We've done it twice, and we've done it twice in a really, really big way. Well, what's to say that we can't be doing it a third time? And obviously with all the fear in the market, you know, to reset the market, I mean, look, like I said, $9,000 is pretty unrealistic, but to drop down to 30,000, for example, that sounds a lot more plausible than dropping down to $9,000, and that would mean that, I mean, basically from this breakout point, we'd be dropping by about another 30%, or from the all-time high, we're going to be more than halving it, dropping down by about 55%. So really putting into perspective for you how much of a drop this coin could be looking at if it manages to fall down from this rising wedge. And what's even more concerning about it is the time frames, because usually with these kind of patterns, we're going to be breaking out not when we reach the apex of the rising wedge, right? So the apex would be when these two lines meet and it forms, you know, an angle. You know, it's usually not going to be at that point. It's going to be, I mean, roughly where we are right now, right? I mean, this is a 140 bar 555 day rising wedge. It's a huge pattern, 555 days, and we're already more than 1 year into it. That's a really important thing to note, guys. We're already more than 1 year into a nearly, you know, 600-day pattern. This is about, you know, 2/3 of the way into this pattern. And usually the general rule for these kind of patterns is that, and it's for any pattern, it's for descending triangles, symmetrical triangles, just any pattern that has a time frame within which we can break out from, we're generally going to break out from it when it's between 2/3 to 3/4 of its completion. So between 66 to 75% of the pattern's completion, which is bang on exactly where we are right now, that's when we're most likely to break out of it. And we can actually just calculate. So I just go throw this into my calculator really quick. If I do 94 divided by 140, that puts us, I don't know if you can read this, but that puts us at a, oh shit, sorry, that puts us at a 67% completion of this entire rising wedge. And this is not very accurate, but the point is, you know, I mean, even if my math is wrong, it's not going to be wrong by more than 5-10%. We're right in the middle of that range where we should be expecting this rising wedge to be breaking down right now. And then the fact that we're already so close to it is what makes it potentially concerning, right? So even if we're not going to that $9,000 target that I mentioned earlier on in this video, and again, I'll get to why we might be there in just a minute, you know, the fact is that we do still have, quite a good probability of breaking down relatively soon, especially considering how close we are to this support. And the key thing to keep in mind right now is that we can still find support off this line, trend up for that reaction rally that I've been saying we need, which might take us to, if you look at the price levels over here, it might take us to perhaps, you know, $60,000, $50,000, you know, anything like that would be good enough in my opinion, and we would still be in this very same bearish, you know, rising wedge pattern, and then, you know, potentially getting ready to test this thing and drop down again. And that's the key thing that I really want you guys to be aware of is, you know, I mean, look at this. It's too far to be a coincidence now. We had this rising wedge right here, drop down by 50%. This rising wedge right here, we've already dropped down by 30% from it, right? I mean, these are big drops to be getting off the same pattern, and the fact that they're both happening at local tops, I mean, it makes so much sense that this could be a larger one that we're in, and that's something I really want you guys to keep in mind. You know, if we look at this on a larger time frame, I can actually just remove all of these drawings and switch us onto the month time frame, the monthly chart. This is something that I know Tone Vase was looking at quite a bit, just basically showing us that we are, if we look at this on the log time frame, probably we are in a pattern right now where we could be looking at, you know, just kind of coiling up and then exploding to the upside in kind of like an ascending triangle type pattern. The point is we're really close to the support, and honestly, I don't think it makes sense to be looking at this on the monthly chart. On the weekly chart, it's a little bit more obvious to just kind of understand what our candles are doing here. And the whole point here is that, you know, I mean, look, we're kind of close to support. A little bit of a further drop down to perhaps $41,000, $40,000 would do it. But the main problem is, you know, I mean, if we don't find support off that level, and if we don't rally really strong off it, well then, I mean, we could just be stuck in the very same rising wedge pattern, and then, you know, just kind of drop down and of course that would be pretty catastrophic, because below $30,000, this is the key thing I want you guys to understand right now, is that if we don't find support at $30,000, we're probably not going to find support until 20. And the reason that I'm saying that is, if you just look at this chart with a very open mind right now, I mean, there's not really much room for interpretation on this, unfortunately. If we zoom out and we just draw a line at the $30,000 level, bam, right there, and then we draw another line at the $20,000 level, bam, right here, the only trading that Bitcoin has ever had in its history of trading between the area of $20,000 right here and $30,000 right here, the only trading Bitcoin has ever had between these two price levels happened over here. There's just no trading. Bitcoin went up in a straight line, and this is something that, you know, other technical channels just probably won't tell you about. Maybe they don't know, maybe it's just not fashionable to tell you about this kind of stuff because it's realistic analysis. And by the way, guys, if you appreciate that and you find this channel to be helpful for you in those ways, again, just do me a favor, smash up those likes. A little click for you goes a long way for me, and of course subscribe to this YouTube channel if you do enjoy these videos, because the key thing to keep in mind is that if we're rising up in a straight line, it means we must drop in a straight line as well. There's just no support to find on the way up because we didn't really establish any resistance on the way down. And I mean, we could, you know, if we really want to be generous, we could say that 24K might act as support, maybe even 28, but I mean, this was a week of consolidation. Really, it wasn't much at all. And by the way, those of you who are in VIP back here will remember I pulled one of the biggest profits of my life trading the breakout from this 24K level, more than a 300% gain on a very short-term trade. That was pretty impressive. It was only, I mean, the trade was only open for like a week, maybe max. And so that's a very impressive gain to be seeing that 300% profit on a part of my position right there. And of course, like I said, every single trade I make goes straight into 4Fly's VIP. You're going to see how I'm navigating my wins, navigating my losses, and so on, managing my risk. A lot of very, very important details. Plus, like I said, gaining access to the 4Fly's Academy, which most of you will get when you join 4Fly's VIP, where you can learn everything I know about trading from A to Z, everything I know about analysis, and yearly members getting phone calls with me as well. So if you want to talk to me directly, we can work through what you're doing as well. And then also there's a whole other package that every single VIP member gets, which is all about the psychology of trading and key lessons that I learned as a trader since I began trading more than 4 years ago, which in crypto is a bloody long time. And that's all there for you in an audiobook form, in a course, in an ebook, whatever you like. It's there. You can consume it. It's free for every single VIP member. So lots of amazing stuff when you follow these 3 quick steps on screen. First link in the description down below, at 4Flies button, and then send message to ask me how to join 4Flies VIP. And just while I'm here, guys, if you haven't already and you like free money, there's up to $4,100 completely free of charge up for grabs for you when you make your first deposit on Bybit using my link in the description down below. This is the only exchange I use, only exchange I've been using for a long time. I've been working with them for years and absolutely love them, and they have offered this to viewers of this channel. So all you got to do is sign up using that link down below, make your first deposit. It's going to take you less than 10 minutes in total, and you will get up to $4,100 for free just for doing that. And you can trade with it, you can do whatever you like. So definitely go ahead and check that out. But moving us back to the chart right here, this is the key thing that I want you guys to be aware of right now, is that obviously 30K can act as support. It's a big area of support, and I certainly hope that it works. But the big thing to keep in mind is that if this level fails, I mean, even if we're being generous, there's just no real support that we can expect on the way down, in my opinion, until we fall down to $20,000. And even then, $20,000 at that is not a very good area of support. It's only good because it's psychologically charged. But look, we only spent, I mean, we barely even spent a day trading here in 2017, and we only spent a month consolidating here in 2020. So there's not a lot of price confluence around this area. There's just, I mean, other than the fact that it's a big psychological number, $20,000 is not a good area of support. And that's why I was saying potentially even lower, right? Potentially dropping down to, you know, I mean, I know that my face cam is covering this, hang on. Potentially even dropping down to levels like, you know, kind of right around this $12,000 area, where you can see that there's a lot more confluence. There's a lot more trading action happening. You're getting a big bounce right here. You're getting some rejections right here, a big market top, another big market top right here, and then blasting off, right? So 12,000 is actually an even better support level than 20. It's just that 20 is very psychologically charged. But I mean, we'll cross that bridge when it comes. It's way too early to be talking about such bearish price targets right now. Like I said, I want to make this super clear. I don't actually think that we're going to be dropping down this low. But what I think and what actually happens are two different things. And I need to make that very clear, right? My job as an analyst, my job as a trader, and as a YouTuber who doesn't present to you bullshit, but instead comes with the real hard facts and breaks them down for you so that you can make your own very well-informed decisions is to outline every possibility and then try and outline try and assign a probability to it and tell you guys what I'm thinking about that. And that's exactly what I'm doing in this video. It's very, very important to be able to do this. And if you don't do this just because it makes you uncomfortable, you're going to be one of the bottom 90-95% of traders that lose money. So please keep that in mind. And as we move forward here, yeah, like I said, because I mean, it's just a straight line rising up. If we do drop below that 30k level, I would be looking at the 20k level for a little bit of support. And this is the mother of all support levels, in my opinion, despite what I just said about it not being a very good area of support because it's so psychologically charged. I would be quite surprised if Bitcoin dropped below it. And that to me would be a pretty good completion of the rising wedge pattern. But again, if I just bring you back to this chart right here, you know what I want to show you actually, it's on this chart right here, is the drop that Bitcoin had, right? I mean, if you measure the size of this rising wedge pattern that I've been talking to you guys about, like I said, that is a $37,000 drop or a 56% crash. And if we are looking at something similar to that right here, well then a further $37,000 drop right here would take us down by 80%, and that would put us down at that $9,000 area. You can see it right here as well. So that can potentially be very, very uncomfortable for this market. And if we're looking at a minus 56% drop, it's still a big crash. Let me just outline for you what that might look like, just to outline all possible targets, because we can drop by the dollar amount, we can equally drop by the percentage amount. I mean, it really depends on how bearish the market wants to be, but if I just draw the very same pattern right here, and I try to look at where we might be able to find a little bit of support, bear with me while I just make sure that I'm drawing this correctly. Bam, right there, and then right there. You know, we could be looking at a breakout point if it drops down. I'm sorry, a target if it drops down by about minus 56%. That would put us at pretty close to that 20k target. That would put us at about $19,000. So you know, this would be pretty cool. This lines up very, very nicely. And by the way, the longer it takes for us to break out, the higher that target is going to be, right? Minus 56%. If we break out in what is this? I think it's May. No, if we break out in April, which is going to be absolutely shit if we're still trading in this kind of pattern by April of next year. But if we do, that would give us a speculative target of about $20,000 as opposed to 19. So, you know, it all basically points to the same level. I don't think these things are coincidences. This is just how TA works. I mean, this is very, very normal for technical analysis. And of course, these levels look completely unbelievable now. But I want to just make one point very, very clear to you, that when I was warning you guys about a potentially very large drop for Bitcoin when we were trading around here, well, you know, just kind of accepting the fact that Bitcoin might have already dropped to $40,000 when we were trading up here would have been very, very difficult to imagine, right? I mean, if I just replay the chart right here, you're going to get a very, very good sense of how ridiculous that idea sounds if you look at the chart right here. And if I'm telling you that actually I think Bitcoin's going to be dropping all the way down here, you'd tell me to get the fuck off YouTube and take my head out of my ass. And you know, I can't blame you, because it sounds bloody ridiculous, but at the same time, it's what happened. And that's the thing that I think really separates the winning traders from the losing ones, is that they just struggle to be able to visualize these kind of things in these markets, right? You need to be able to accept all of these possibilities and then prepare for them accordingly. And if you can't, you're going to find yourself in a lot of trouble very, very regularly. And that's why I'm bringing you this video right now. You know, from a short-term analysis, it's pretty clear. I actually think that Bitcoin could be in a bullish pattern right now on these short-term charts, right? I mean, it's in a descending channel, which is the exact opposite of an ascending channel, which is, I mean, we're not really in a channel, we're more in a rising wedge, but they're broadly still the same pattern, where we're just kind of slowly rising up. Well, in this case, we're slowly dropping down, right? And so I think that Bitcoin could very well be in and this actually looks like pretty accurate right now, in my opinion, right? I mean, Bitcoin you know, pretty much just setting lower highs and higher lows. I'm sorry, lower highs and generally lower lows in such a way where actually, you know, previously we were crashing down pretty quickly. Look at this, and then we start dropping down a little bit slower, potentially indicating that that momentum could be reversing. But again, my key problem with this, and I've been outlining to you on this to you on every single video, is that even if we do get these breakouts, there's so much resistance up ahead. Look at this, the one-day EMA ribbon giving us resistance starting at $50,000 and then ending at about $54,000. We have the Ichimoku cloud, which has just turned bearish as well, starting at 53 and ending at about 54.5, right? So even if we manage to get a rally going up into the kind of middle of January next year, we could be looking at resistance right around there, which is potentially quite concerning. We look at the 4-hour chart and there's just resistance upon resistance upon resistance directly overhead right now. It's an absolutely terrible picture. We're in resistance right now on the EMA ribbon, right? I mean, this is the thing to keep in mind, is that because we've dropped so much, there's going to be so much resistance on so many different time frames if we manage to rise back up just for now. But because we've been in this pattern for quite a while, look at this, right? Because we've been in this pattern now for about 15 days, I mean, this is definitely shifting to, you know, kind of from a short-term pattern to more of a kind of mid-term pattern now. You know, I think we could be looking at a pretty nice breakout. But again, I mean, where is it going to break out up to? This is the problem, is that there's so much resistance, right? If we manage to go up to the top of this yellow arrow, that's basically only going to put us at this very same price level that Bitcoin topped out at previously, which is actually quite a strong area of resistance. This has been a problem area for Bitcoin for quite a while. You can see that this is where the market topped out at when it rallied up from 29,000, topped out at 53, and saw a big drop down. So it very well could be the case that we get this bullish breakout, end up topping out over here, come back down to that line I was showing you guys before, which would have looked a little bit like this, and if I just move this circle up a little bit, potentially giving us a target right around here, and then we, you know, just crash right through it and meet that $20,000, $30,000 target, and so on, for a very, very bearish picture. Again, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but it certainly is possible. You know, I don't think it's super likely. I think more likely than any of what I've just said, Bitcoin is in exactly the same pattern, which I've already been talking about, but I think it's just going to break up from it instead. These patterns can have bullish breakouts. It's not as likely as bearish breakouts, unfortunately, and that's why you've seen on this chart, you know, when we formed this pattern twice already, it was an absolutely disastrous thing for the market to go through, and it was very, very bad, and we saw big drops. You know, when we dropped below this area of support, we saw a 50% drop over here. We saw a 30% drop from the very same line that looks a little bit like this. If I just draw this for you very, very quickly, you know, generally it's a pretty bearish sign, but it doesn't have to be. It's not a 100% thing that it's definitely always going to be bearish, and I actually think that we might end up being able to use it as an ascending triangle, which is, by the way, what Tone Vase is talking about. And I know you guys want to know who I watch on YouTube. Tone Vase is by far one of my favorite analysts in the whole crypto space. He's extremely level-headed, and you know, one of the key things for me is, even if analysis turns out to be wrong, I would rather it be following a good process than just lucky when it turns out to be right, because that is extremely, extremely dangerous. And I'm saying this to you after having years of experience listening to idiots and listening to very well-informed traders and analysts, and he is definitely in the group of the latter, right? So this is the key thing I want you guys to keep in mind right now, is that when analysis doesn't sound sexy, when analysis doesn't sound very exhilarating, that's where it's probably most realistic. You know, nobody would have expected this big drop to happen in this market. Nobody would have expected this big drop to happen in this market, but it's cleansing so many people out. A bigger drop down to 20k would cleanse out even more in this market. It would honestly probably be the healthiest thing we could see, but you know, we don't necessarily do the healthiest things in these Bitcoin markets, right? So that's why I'm not really banking on it, and that's why I actually think that there's a pretty real probability that Bitcoin just turns this into a bullish pattern, manages to rise up, somehow break all of the resistance it's going to have up ahead in that 50k range, and then blast off to brand new all-time highs. And it would just make so much sense if this turned out to be you know, a kind of bullish ascending triangle for Bitcoin right here. And so that is something that I have got my eyes on. But my point is that if there's any time that Bitcoin's going to be under a lot of fire and under a lot of pressure to drop down, it is right now, because of this time frame that I've shown you, where we are exactly between that 66 to 75% time range for when we could be looking at a bearish breakout. So there you go, guys. I hope you have found this video useful. If you have, you know exactly what to do. Hit up the likes, subscribe, tick the bell, do all that good stuff. I want to bring to your attention again VLaunch, guys. These guys are about to launch. This is a crypto coin that's headed by some of the biggest names in crypto. You guys probably know Chris, Crypto, Moritz as well, another German YouTuber. They are launching an absolutely huge coin right here. It's got amazing tokenomics. You guys know I don't really care about altcoins broadly speaking, but my god, if I think it can make me money, I am in for sure. The last time I was telling you about an altcoin that I think is going to blow up, it was CHSB, and I was kind of right about it. I bought it down here at about 29 cents. It's now trading at about 60 cents, so that's a pretty good deal. I told you guys that I was selling it when it was trading all the way up here at, this is lagging a lot, but when it was trading all the way up here at about $1.50, so that was a really nice 5x gain that I was able to tell you guys that I want to be riding. And I'm looking at the same thing happening to VLaunch. I just don't see any way that this coin isn't going to blow off massively because of all the hype that it's got and because of the tokenomics behind it. So definitely check it out. They are linked in the description down below, and this can potentially be a very explosive one. So if you guys are looking for those kind of kind of long-term holdings, this is one of those for me. I don't hold many altcoins, but like I said, if I know that it's going to blow off with a very high degree of certainty, well then, I mean, I'd be an idiot if I wasn't in, and this is one of them. So I want to bring it to your attention because I'm invested in it already, and yeah, I'm quite optimistic about how this is going to be going. And like I said, I mean, the bottom line is, the more hype these kind of projects get, the more they're going to be blowing off, and VLaunch is only about the hype. So I mean, the whole idea behind VLaunch is putting hype behind crypto projects. So I mean, this will be the mother of all hype projects from what I'm expecting, and yeah, I'm quite optimistic about it in the long term as well because of that. I'll tell you more about it when it launches. It hasn't actually launched yet, so for now all you can do is join the Telegram channel, follow them on Twitter, vlaunch.com right here, and just keep up to date with everything that's going on there. All right, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Again, you know exactly what to do if you want to jump into VIP. Bam, right there. Hit up the like, subscribe, tick the bell, do all that good stuff, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.